welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today, in kind of a direct continuation to our last episode, Beastars.
Ooh.
Yeah, isn't that a mood whiplash to those of you who probably watched both Zootopia and this? But
Mm-hmm.
there is actually a reason. Wolf told me there is a reason, and now having watched the show, I kind of know the reason
Mm-hmm.
because because similar concepts, very similar concept. Actually, you know something. Watching this show, I like and describing it to friends. I described it as Zootopia meets BoJack Horseman.
Huh, I've not seen BoJack Horseman, so I can't say, but I guess
I
that's not
didn't
too off.
I didn't see it myself, but I mean, in terms of character designs and the darker themes
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, it kind of feels like a combination of the.
I could see that. I would say, right, this show is definitely, yeah, I would say, right, I don't know if Zootopia is the first thing. I'm fairly certain Zootopia is not the first thing to ever cover or do like an animal world and what that would mean for the animals, anthropomorphic animal world and what that would mean for the animals that live within that kind of world. But I would say that Zootopia kind of cracked the door open again for the cultural
That's
zeitgeist and pop
if you
culture.
think, I think if you think about the idea, Zootopia is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, again, I would say it kind of repopularized it within the common man's head. I guess you would say popular culture and zeitgeist. Zootopia repopularized it, but I would say
Which,
it didn't really
which
open the door fully.
it
It
is
just
it is
cracked the door,
interesting.
right?
It is interesting to make that comparison though, because you can say, oh, obviously Beastars was inspired by Zootopia, but when you look at it, this is based on a manga which I just checked premiered only a few months after Zootopia was released.
Yeah, I think this was definitely probably being worked on while Zootopia was being worked on, but I would say that in my opinion, right? I think I wouldn't say this is inspired by Zootopia, but I think where Zootopia kind of cracked open the door to exploring what a world like this, how it would work, it kind of took a more holistic approach to it and just kind of said, oh, everyone just kind of gets along, right? There's no issue until someone makes there be an issue by,
Yeah.
making
They say
predators go
that
feral.
they literally opened that movie with like there was an issue but now it's no more.
Yeah, and Beastars, comes in and says, well, no, let's not take the holistic approach. Let's say this is prey and predators living together. How would a world like that work?
Let's attack this. Beastars take on this is what if Disney didn't wasn't in charge of this? What if we didn't? What if we said screw the kids? Kids can handle this kind of shit.
I mean,
And
this is, I should point out, a mature rated show, which
yeah, this is not for kids at all.
which I have a
Like,
story to go along with that a little bit later when we get into more spoiler
oh,
territory. I've
yeah,
already
but
told you this, but I think it'd be fun to tell the audience a little bit about this.
it will probably be fun because I don't think I remember. So,
Good.
so you get my blind reaction
Mm.
again.
Again.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think, where Zootopia repopularized the idea, I think and kind of cracked open the door. I think Beastars swings the door open wider and says, "Let's take a deeper look at this. Let's ask the question of how would a world like this work?" And
Yeah, and also just touching about overall more mature themes, and actually, if you go back to the Zootopia episode, there are a lot of things you said in it that all of a sudden started making sense as I was watching this show. I'm like, oh, so that's what he meant. Oh, so this is so yeah. And yeah, as Wolf kind of built on me, I would just say that, to those of you who are new to our show, then first of all, welcome. Always great to have you here. But the thing that we usually do with TV shows is that we'll start with our non-spoilery thoughts, and then move, and then we'll actually get into spoilers, and we'll go over the season, in this case episode by episode. However, for this, once we get into spoilers, we are going to make this a bit more of an open discussion, since it would fit better with what we did with the Zootopia coverage, because our idea was kind of comparing the two things up. And Wolf, since you just came back, what are your
Hello.
non-spoilery thoughts? Yeah, what are your non-spoilery thoughts about Beastars?
I enjoyed the show. Yeah, I said earlier, right? I think it's a more in-depth look at how a world like this would work, or if it even could work. And I think it, instead of taking Zootopia's more holistic approach to things, it kind of says, maybe things aren't as sunshine and rainbows, and eh, to begin with, right? And I enjoy that kind of look into. And I think there's a particular episode that kind of really puts that into focus and really just, says, this is what this kind of world might be like, and this is what this kind of world has to deal with and do in order to make itself work, right? And again, like I enjoy that kind of approach. Um, there are parts of it that I was a little bit about, for some things and how it handles it, or how it approaches it, I guess, or just how it puts it out there. But overall, I would say Beastars is, if you break it down to its barest essential, is essentially a teenage love story with the
Yeah.
big question hanging over top of it of, am I in love with this person, or do I just want to eat this person? That's Beastars, if you break it down to
I
its
mean,
barest essentials.
honestly, if these were humans, then the answer would be both. But
Is that a lewd joke?
this is a very NSFW joke. I apologize.
Luckily, we
But
don't
yeah,
rate our. Luckily, we've never said our show is rated for kids ever.
like we swear before. It's not like this is territory
But
for
see,
us.
in this episode, we have to talk about the S word, HC.
Yeah. Oh well. Hey, we did certain reasons why, dude.
This is
Like,
true.
this is not new territory for us. We don't,
Surprisingly
Uh,
less sex in 13 Reasons Why, though.
yeah. Let's say it actually caught me off guard more in this show than in certain reasons.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because humans, I get it. I there is sadly an intermediate of watching humans, but a bunny with basically any other animal in the animal kingdom, this is a bit of a problem.
There's a medium for that too, HC.
Yeah, I object to its existence. So, but okay, so you like the show?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's really well done in terms of what it tries to approach and do.
Okay, to my side, and I'll say that overall, I enjoyed my time with the show. I'm glad I watched it, and I like a lot of its ideas. I like a lot of its themes. I really enjoyed the animation in
Mm.
it, and like some, and it does fully take advantage of the fact that it's animated in some places.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? I kind of take it back. I enjoy the art style. Like I enjoy the way the show looks, and and how the drawings are done and everything. The animation itself sometimes bothers me because it kind of tries to do what the Dragon Prince did, if it makes sense. That it's kind of it's kind of CGI, kind of hand drawn. So they're kind of trying
Mm-hmm.
to find that middle ground, but it kind of reminds me of season one Dragon Prince as opposed to seasons 2 and 3
There
Dragon
were
Prince.
there were times where the slower parts did feel a bit stiff in the movements when they were just kind of walking around and things. But once you
Yeah,
see some of the more action heavy stuff, like it looks gorgeous in
yeah,
motion.
yeah. That's the thing that like the the regular talking stuff, the talking and everything. that looks a bit off. Whenever there's action, it looks great, and whenever they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to be stylistic with it, also fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And but when it's jarring, it's jarring. And like you said, essentially this is a high school show, which I have no problems with. Like people know that high school shows and movies are like my niche genre. Like this is my thing. But then again, as much as I enjoy the show, I have a few problems with it. And one thing is that I think it kind of tried to cram in too much at times. Like some plot points, I felt either went nowhere or was just
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say redundant, but kind of out of nowhere
There
in a
were
sense.
there were things
We'll get
that
to
were
the
introduced that kind of like, whoa, that could be an entire, couple of episodes by itself, but it's like very quickly in this one episode, and then we just kind of move past it. Like one
yeah.
character, we get that character's backstory, and it's like, wow, that could be a couple episodes in and of itself at least, and it's
Yeah,
like a brief
we'll get
flashback,
more.
and that's it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
things like
we'll
that,
get
I do
more.
get where you're coming from on that. Like there's some stuff introduced that's maybe gone over a bit too quickly.
Mhm. And another thing, I'm not sure if this is a personal peeve of mine or not, but yeah, I don't watch a lot of anime. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily something against it. I just, I don't really watch a lot of shows in general lately. And again, it's not against anime. I did watch some anime. I like some anime, but
Mm-hmm.
something about this show feels like they're trying to, that there are so many anime cliches in this, in the way the story is told, like the overly dramatic narration, or the visuals, or how time like stops so that the character could assess a situation or something.
So
But
that's
and
a
like,
shonen specific thing, and I do want to point out this is a shonen anime. This is yeah. And you can very much see this in the kind of ending of this season where it's a little bit on the where it's not quite, but it's close to that idea of love conquers all, and through love your protagonist gets a bit of a power up. That's a
yeah,
very shonen style thing, and this anime is
yeah,
does
but
take from that.
that's and on the one hand, but just to be clear, I have no problem with tropes in general, but something about the ways they're done in this show, and how many times this happens, is that it almost feels like a satire that tries to take itself seriously. I'm not sure if it's a pet peeve of mine or if it's an
Hmm.
actual. I don't know. Do you get what I'm talking about? Even if you don't agree.
Maybe go over it with me again. So you think this is a satire that's taking itself seriously? In what way?
Like, no, what I mean is that they're using so many tropes so often, like with all
Oh,
that it almost feels like they're trying to satire it. I know they don't. I'm just saying
so
that.
you think they're kind of trying to satire anime itself a little bit, maybe?
No, 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 no. That's the thing. I don't think they're trying to satire and shonen anime, but it's done. They're using these so many cliches so many times that it's starting to feel like a satire.
Hmm. Interesting. I don't quite see it, to be honest, but I
Again,
do
I'm
maybe
saying
get where
this
you're
as
coming
someone
from.
like, again, I don't watch a lot of anime, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe this has something to do with it. When I see something, I say, oh yeah, that's anime. Like I want. Like because there are so like the main character, for example, Ligoshi.
Yeah, Legoshi. Yeah.
He Legoshi. He's like he monologues like a madman.
Oh yeah.
Like
He's
and
inner
and
thought
there
guy,
are
very much so. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like there are some points in the show where I'm like, is this really a place where someone where a teenager would have an inner monologue with himself?
I think they do it to kind of show because Legoshi's supposed to be this very introverted person, right? Like he's supposed to
Yeah,
be, not he's not a very extroverted person. He doesn't go out of his way to talk or make friends or anything like that. He very much stays insular within his own thoughts and himself. He very rarely
I
steps outside of that. So I think that's what they're trying to go for. But I do get where you're coming from in saying that he does monologue a lot.
so yeah, this is my take. Most people who watch the show most likely won't agree with me, but
That's
that's
again,
the
it's
beauty
fair.
of opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. With that
I
said,
do. Before we jump into spoilers, I want to talk about a little bit. We brought up the animation. This was animated by Studio Orange, if I'm not mistaken, the same people who you might know from Land of the Lustrous. And it's striking in a way to see Land of the Lustrous, and it's very much, beautiful CGI animation. Like it is exceptionally beautiful CGI animation. And for them to come to Beastars, which, if you've seen a few images from the manga, is very stylized on almost the opposite end of the spectrum to what Land of the Lustrous is, right? Which is again, I think it's an interesting thing because you see this studio come from one area and go into this other area that's it's you would think, oh, and I definitely, from what I've heard, there are people who are a little bit maybe they can't do this, but I think they pulled it off exceptionally well. Also, I want to bring up, did you watch the intro to this show?
actually, this is something I want to bring up. That the intro song is good. I am a fan of Japanese music, so this really is, it hits my taste buds.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of not fitting for this show. It's a bit too cheery.
Well, I mean, I think they did kind of try and show the darker side to it, but I think the darker side was shown in, like, what attracted me to the intro was, it's great, smooth jazz, love it, but also the kind of stop motion intro they did, right? Like I loved that. I thought that was really unique and interesting
Yeah.
because the intro is not done in the same animation style at all that the actual show
Well,
is done.
keep in mind in the intro once, because every other time I just skipped it. That's what
Boo.
Netflix does to me.
You
but
can tell it not to skip it. You should always tell Netflix not to skip. I try, especially if an intro really grabs me, I might watch it, a few times at least to try and get more familiar with it. And this intro kind of grabbed me with just its stop motion style and animation. Like I loved that, each of the characters were this kind of stop motion puppet, and it's just this, breezy, fun, smooth jazz song, breezy's jazz song going on in the background as they're dancing to it and having fun, and it's just this nice thing, and and it's just all this stop motion stuff. It's just really neat. I definitely recommend watching the intro because it's just a lot of fun. At least once, watch it just once if you've
okay,
not.
that's fair. I'll I'll try and give it a few more views after we're done. So, spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Moving right
Well,
into it.
like I said, out. Usually, when we do spoilers coverage of shows, we're going episode by episode. But for this
Mm-hmm.
show, we kind of decided to have to just talk about the entire thing without with and not necessarily talk about episode by episode, because we just felt it's more fitting for the type of show this is. So, with that said,
With that,
spoilers. What do you?
yes, spoilers.
eh,
We're talking about the actual show now. So if you've not seen it, go watch it, then come back. So
Yeah.
let's kind of, we may not be going episode by episode, but let's kind of start off with the first thing that this show kind of gives us, and we start off with is we
Which is
see,
Legoshi and how?
well, yes, but I was going to go more into kind of, we see a little bit into the future of Legoshi basically attacking Haru, right?
Yeah.
But then, while they're kind of sitting there and he's debating on whether or not to eat her, we kind of flash back a couple weeks beforehand or so, and we see we're placed into, we see Tim, an alpaca who is being hunted and then who is killed by an unknown carnivore
Yeah.
late at night
Which,
within the school.
by the way, this is never resolved, right?
Not in this season, though. This might, the end of this season does show, we see the unknown carnivore look at, in the bathroom, and he's kind of taken I think the blood that they'll
Yeah.
use to that carnivore that some
Because this
carnivores
is
will
the
use
thing,
to dope
you
themselves
know, this
with, which is a thing
because
we'll get
yeah,
to.
because the thing is that they bring this up in the first episode, then I completely forgot about this.
Yeah,
And then the last episode they show, and I'm like, oh yeah, there was a guy
a
that
murder.
died at the
Yeah,
beginning. I
it
forgot.
definitely they bring it up here and there, but we never really focus on the murderer. We focus on Tim, who
Yeah,
was murdered, and he's kind of
you know
brought back up here and there, but that's it.
because you know people do bring up the incident, they bring up that there was an attack and everything.
Hmm.
But then again, but then you can also say that people just bring up the time where Legoshi attacked Haru because she is walking around with a bandage.
But no one brings that up
So
though, because that's kind of between those two. So those two are the only ones who can
yeah,
bring it up, and
but at
Legoshi's
the
the only one who
same but at
brings
the
it up.
same time, when what I see mostly is these two characters, and
Hmm.
you barely bring up the character that died at the beginning of the show, I am more inclined to believe you're talking you know, about that. And but yeah, now that you say this, it does make a bit more sense to probably bring that up instead of personal medal. But
Uh-oh, I heard that phone vibrate.
yeah, sorry, text, privacy.
Very loud phone vibrate. Yeah, I do get what you're coming from. It definitely sets up the idea of this potential mystery, and then we kind of move past that. So to me, I think that it's set up in a way to, this is just to basically introduce you to this world because, you know, they had, they even have a phrase or a thing that they call, murders like this. It's a predation incident. A predator went feral, succumbed to his predator instincts, and attacked an herbivore, right? And it, attacked prey and killed and ate the prey, and that's what happened,
By the
right?
way, this is something I would give this show over Zootopia. I think that I kind of get why Zootopia went with the entire zero overacting,
Mm-hmm.
but actually hearing this that this is a constant threat and that the
Mm-hmm.
society is trying to fight this with in terms of meals and and something, this was very interesting to me, and that there are old animals that like are dying, so they like offer parts of their bodies for a ridiculous amount
Oh,
of
you're
money.
talking about the black market.
Yeah,
Yes. Let's.
this was like when I saw, whoa.
So yeah, that one. That's episode 4, is it? Or let me see.
It's in. I think I'm not sure. I think it's like maybe 6. I'm not entirely sure.
Yes, it's episode 6. You're right. Just looked it
Okay.
up real quick. So
Like
that was the episode that I think really sets the tone for this show, and that's where, you finally see, up until this point, we've kind of been given Legoshi's mindset and frame of thought, where it's always kind of seen these predation incidents as more of a teenager thing. Like, yeah, it's a thing that happens in the world, but from his mindset and the mindset you're given as the viewer, it's seen as, oh, these are just teenagers, the adults, quote unquote, don't suffer from these issues. But then we
yeah,
go into the city and, we even have Legoshi, point out the idea of, hey, the adults are able to sit, predator and prey able to sit with one another and enjoy each other's company, and there not be any issue. But then we're introduced to the black market, and then we finally see there's no issue because of the fact that the black market, a place that sells animal meat, exists. Everyone knows it
yeah,
exists. It's technically illegal, but no one does anything about it because to take away the black market, to take away that meat for the carnivores, would potentially mean way more predation incidents, would mean that carnivores wouldn't be able to coexist with herbivores peacefully.
yeah. And
And
I
I think that's
also,
the episode that
yeah,
really puts that world into perspective and says, this is how it works.
and I agree, and I agree. And there was also something that I did that I liked, a few episodes before this,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like how they compare blood to drugs in
Yes.
a sense. This was also interesting and also kind of a comedy. I like this.
Because we
And
had.
the,
Oh, go ahead.
and and another thing I like is that there's in one of the episodes there's like a chicken that that during the lecture sits near Legoshi,
Hmm.
and then we found out that she makes her eggs like in a specific way that it's a bit more organic,
She
and
tries to make the highest quality eggs possible because she's a chicken. She lays eggs, and when she lays eggs, she sells those eggs to the school to use for school lunches and stuff. And that's how some of the predators get their protein because the show is very.
yeah, and again, this was actually a really cool idea. Like, I'm
Mhm.
watching this, it's like you know that's cool. Like I actually want to see more ways where how they handle this problem. But yeah,
Because
but I enjoy this.
Because, again, like it's a consistent thing the show does in order to build up its world. Like it says, everyone eats, vegetable based meals and soy based meals, and that's how the predators get their protein is through the soy and stuff like that. And it sets that kind of world up of, you're not allowed to eat meat in, the school or anything because that would be very controversial, right? And it even has, there's a rule that, predators are not allowed to bare their fangs to prey and all that, right? Carnivores can't
Yeah,
bare their fangs to herbivores, stuff like that. Like, I love how they set up and build up their world through all of these little different things. And it gets you interested in seeing, how a world like this would work. And it gets you to asking, could a world like this work even? Is that possible? Is it
yeah,
possible
and
to is it possible for a world like this to become that more kind of holistic approach that Zootopia takes, which I love
uh,
personally.
yeah, I love, and at the same time, I would even argue as we end this season, not really, unless some other stuff happen
Well, I mean,
because
oh, go ahead.
no, because there are in society when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Like there are ways to kind of make sure that stuff won't happen, but the fact of the matter is stuff is happening, stuff is going to happen, and there is, and kind of like there's no way you can tell that despite the rules, no one is going to actually to do something about this. You know what I mean?
I mean, you know, like we end the season, right? Legoshi. The entire point is, of this season is kind of Legoshi has feelings for Haru. Legoshi is a great wolf, a timber wolf. I forget which one, but he's a big wolf, and that's something else I love about this show. Zootopia felt a little similar in design for all the different animals. You could see the size differences, but they didn't feel genuinely unique from one another, right? Maybe that's just me, but in Zootopia, the size differences didn't always feel like that worked as well. Like, when you look at the Timberwolves in Zootopia compared to Judy and Nick, they don't seem that much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that could have just been me failing to grasp perspective, but it definitely felt in Zootopia that the animals weren't super unique and different from one another. But in Beastars, you look at Legoshi and Haru, and you can see a huge difference in size between the two. Like, I mean, you can look at the image I'm using for the background in the video for this, and just kind of see just how big Legoshi is compared to Haru, and just how much he envelops her because he is just huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like this dude
Yeah,
make
this
me look
is
small, and I'm almost 6 foot.
yikes. How is that? How tall is that in meters?
Oh god, don't ask me that. Use freedom units, people. They're the best units.
I'm a middle 78 personally, so
Let me.
yeah. But I will say that yeah, looking at the height, says it's almost kind of creepy how much taller he is than her, and you know. But hey, I've seen couples with that height difference, so yeah, sure.
I'm not quite 6 foot. I'm like 5'11", so around 180 centimeters, somewhere in there.
Mhm. So you're a bit taller than me.
not by much, but a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this dude would make even me look small. But yeah,
Yeah.
I, I I lost my previous train of thought because I got sidetracked. This, but I do love the stark contrast that this show gives between all the different animals. Like you can even see like small. Oh crap! What were they? Like except like mice and stuff like that, exceptionally small animals, right? Compared to them, and they all have to go to the same school and be wary of, like, oh, I almost stepped on this person. I need to be watching out. I need to be careful of that and stuff like that. And they even have places where like the really small, rodents and stuff like that can travel to avoid having that be the case and happen and things like that.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
like this too.
I love
But
all of these small things this show does to try and build up that world and everything. It's really good.
mhm. Yeah, like the world is probably my biggest compliment to this
Hmm.
show. Like I really like this world. I really like how the characters are trying to live according to it. This
Hmm.
is great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great
The
setup here. I feel, and I think that's the biggest thing for this first season is setup, right?
mhm. Yeah, like and this is kind of also my problem because we are
Hmm.
setting up stuff, but then when you actually look at at the plot as a plot, some like for example in the last in like in I think 2 episodes before the finale, like how he was being kidnapped by like gangsters or something, and it's like,
A lion
ooh,
gang, yes, the Shishigumi,
yeah,
this
yeah,
basically very feared predator gang of just nothing but lions, and they kidnap her to basically for their boss who is going to eat her.
and it's like,
And
huh? Where did it? It's like, where did this come from? Why is this all of a sudden such a big priority? And then Ligoshi runs off to save her after the is he a reindeer
yeah,
or
a red deer, Louis,
yeah the red and
who
like the red deer who has sex with Haru. He's like, I don't. He's like, I don't care, and Ligoshi beats him
he
up, and then goes,
he does
and then goes,
care, but it's like he's approached by the mayor, right, of the city they live in, and the mayor's a lion, and the mayor tells him, you know you can't do anything if you go and make a big scene about this. It's going to frighten people, and I don't want to ruin. And during this time, the meteorite festival is going on, and they're preparing for it, and the mayor's like, I don't want to ruin this festival. We've already had other predation incidents where herbivores have died. We don't need another one. We don't need this to be news. Keep quiet about it. If you don't keep quiet about it, he's going the mayor was going to reveal Louis's deep dark secret that Louis was apparently within a what was it, a he was apparently considered he was apparently livestock. Essentially, he was going to be eaten
yeah,
by
right.
predators. He was in a
Mhm.
livestock market and was going to be eaten, was going to be sold to be eaten by carnivores, but instead he was bought by his father, who is apparently an influential member within the city. And so he bought him and said, you're now my son and I'll raise you as my own. And like
And that's
and
an
that's something that you brought up before, where stuff is introduced and then kind of dropped, and that's one of those things that's Louis has this flashback for all this, and it's kind of revealed in
yeah,
all that episode as well, and it's like, holy shit, damn, Louis, I would love
like
to know a bit more
that.
about that, but it's just quickly
Like
sidetracked.
again, like you said, this is why, like when you said that there's a flashback that could have wanted its own episode,
Hmm.
this is the flashback.
Yes, this is the
I would
one
have
where we get a flashback of Louis going kind of through this and his life for this, and it's very quickly gone through, and then we're back on trying to rescue Haru from the Shishigumi, which is a great thing. You get to see my favorite badass panda guy. I loved Gohin in this. Right, he's just wonderful, just coming through
By the
with a
way,
bamboo
missed
crossbow.
opportunity. Yeah, missed opportunity to have the panda do kung fu. Just saying.
We can't be too on the
um,
nose.
okay, fine. Uh,
But
but
still, I mean, he knows how to fight though, and he's strong. And plus, he's got that just bamboo crossbow that he goes around and just absolutely murders fools with on that thing. Like,
yeah.
damn.
But again, like I said, Shishigumi, this is a cool concept, and also
Hmm.
I like the idea that in a city like this, it makes sense that the mayor would be a bit corrupted,
I
and
mean, the mayor's a lion too, and he even kind of tells him like, no one approaches the Shishigumi, no one deals with the Shishigumi. The Shishigumi are very feared, and it's like
exactly.
the mayor even shows Louis, and even kind of tells him like, the mayor doesn't have fangs, and it's like, you kind of notice that at first, but then they kind of go into it very quickly. I had all of them pulled and replaced with more, I guess you'd say, herbivore teeth in order to come off as less opposing and less fearful to people. That way they would elect me as mayor. And it's like, that's a nice little tidbit. That's a nice little bit of world building, but it's great to have, but it's definitely one of those things where it feels like a lot, right? And
Yeah.
it would be nice if we could kind of focus on some of those things for a bit longer than the time we're given. I don't think they're introduced badly. I don't think they're handled badly. But as we stated, right, I think it would be nice to take a bit more time with some of those things and be able to enjoy those things a bit more and kind of go a bit more in depth on them than maybe what we're given. With that said,
Hmm.
maybe Louis' entire, history might be a thing we get within season 2 as well, potentially, if we get season 2.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's worth
Well.
saying that there is a lot of setup here, and I think some of that setup will pay off in season 2, hopefully. But it's definitely a lot of setup in this first season for potential future things, like the entire way we start this season of of trying to figure out who the student predator was that killed Tem, the herbivore, the alpaca.
Yeah. But again, in I want to say that like the in a lot of shows, like there's the cliche, the kind of cliche of a corrupted mayor, a corrupt politician. Makes sense in this kind of world, though.
Hmm.
Doesn't it make sense that in a world like this, there will need to be some sort of of corruption because of the way this works. And granted, they're kind of going in that direction, but again, nothing is done with this. And how much could you actually do with this? And talking about this like this, I don't know if the reason we don't get much into it because focus on
You
which
broke
I
up a
will
little bit. You want
say
to repeat that?
like so I talked about how actually like, how it makes sense this kind of world, but I think the reason that some of this is kind of being forgotten about or thrown to the side is because they want to focus on the love story.
I think I think you're right too. I think because we're dealing with more of a teenage high school love story sort of deal, a lot of the more adult things of political corruption and the fact that the black market exists, they're introduced to flesh out and build up the world, maybe for the future, but we are, more so focused on the teenage love story aspect. And so we do kind of have to come back to that because that is kind of the thing that's going on here. And that
And
is kind of the theme of this season at the very least is, you know, these kids learning that the adult world they're going to soon be going into isn't perfect either, and can they fix that? Can they be better than the adults, right? Because we end.
And that's Mike, and that I have a question for you about this because I've been thinking about this,
Mhm.
and because it's obviously kind of trying to show these kids that the world that they are growing into isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They kind of
Mhm.
know this, but they kind of see just how much it's not a good world.
I think right, Legoshi
But
took it a little
wait,
bit. Okay.
I have a point.
Okay.
So,
I'll
but
wait.
yeah, but the thing is that, wouldn't it make more sense if these kids were in college and almost graduating?
I think that's essentially what this is, but we're never really led to believe that what kind of, school this is. I have to imagine they're all like older
Because
teens, maybe
no,
getting ready to be.
because they made I think they made her is 8, and she's like, and I think when she
How
introduces
did you
herself
think
to
Haru was?
18.
18,
I
okay.
think I think they say it
Yeah, I think so too at some
when
point.
she's in front of the leader of the Shimogami.
Mhm.
Then I think he she may she so she says she's 18, And he replies with, "Oh, so you like?" He says something like, "Oh, so you're a kid," or "Oh, so you're still in school," and it's like, what kind of school? Because the school does kind of look, in terms of the hallways, it kind of reminds me of a high school, and
Hmm.
but at the same time, when you see the class, or the type of classrooms they're in, it looks more like college. And but so
Yeah.
I think more clarity on where, in what kind of school this is, would have helped, because I got mostly high school out of this, but I think if these kids were like in college and about to graduate and actually go to the real world, I think it would fit more with what they're trying to say.
Legoshi is, it says in the wiki here, Legoshi is 17 years old. So, and I think Haru is 2 years older than him. So she's 19 or 18, yeah. And Louis 18 is what it says on the wiki as well. So, yeah, definitely high school age, kind of getting into that young adulthood soon.
So with that said,
But I do, kind of going into that, I love how this show ends in its final episode of, our main love relationship being between Haru and Legoshi. And Legoshi, kind of outright says, I do love you. I do feel like I love you, but I don't feel like I'm strong enough to potentially fight off those predator instincts. And I don't want to lose to that. So, he actually, kind of asks her, can
actually,
you wait for me?
on
Can you
that.
give me time to get stronger?
Mhm. This is actually something that kind of bothered me, because I like the idea, again, the idea that he loves her, but he's not sure if he's strong enough to find the instincts.
Hmm.
That's great, but there's a bit when they're in the hotel room after he saves
Oh
her, and
boy.
he actually
The
tells
Love
her,
Hotel, you mean?
yeah, the love hotel. But there was this thing where it's like he holds her the same way he held her when he attacked her, and it's like, this was me, and she was like, oh, I actually knew, but I
Oh,
didn't.
she suspected it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but they have this moment with each other, which says like, she knows it's him, she forgives him, and he kind of starts putting his insecurities aside,
And
and
they're
they
getting ready
have,
to have sex, and then she falls
yeah,
prey to her instincts of
yeah,
wanting
that
to
that
be eaten, which is a little weird. Like, I'll admit,
yeah,
that one caught me off guard. Like, that was kind of a
yeah,
little bit out of
that
nowhere.
not only is it out of nowhere, it's also kind of, why blame this on Legoshi then?
I don't think she
This is
blames it on him. She does kind of blame it on her own instincts, right? Her own instincts of wanting to be eaten, which is, again, weird. How do you have the instincts of wanting to be eaten? Because
Yeah, so one, the fact that they have an instinct to want to be eaten is almost as stupid as dragons wanting to get mind control. Oh wait, but sorry.
no, that's fair. Again, it definitely is a little bit weird, and maybe the manga itself might go into that scene more potentially.
Maybe,
I can't say
because
I've not read the
apparently,
manga.
according to the episode list on Wikipedia, every episode is like four issues of the manga.
Hmm.
So maybe due to time constraints, they had to cut some stuff out. I'm not sure.
I know for a fact they cut a few things out from what I have understood, but I don't know what those things are. Again, I've not read the manga, so maybe the manga goes into this a bit more, but the anime definitely could
Yeah,
have been a bit more.
because this is something they can't throw out at you, expect you to accept it. But then but then again, when it comes to the ending, and they can't have this. I guess we won't do it, even though the love is there. It's
Well,
kind.
it's especially weird because right in episode 2 and episode 3, right, we have the idea introduced that Haru was going to, you know, I guess give him, basically perform oral sex, right? And suck his dick. To be blunt about it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the
And there's
show
no
is
problem
not about
there,
it.
but then all of a sudden here there's a problem, right? It's a bit
And also,
it's not very clear in terms of why there's a difference now, right? It feels like they could maybe have been a bit more clear on why this is an issue that's
Also,
coming up
it
now.
is also kind of, I'm not sure, maybe if they explained it, it kind of goes over, went over my head.
It did mine
But
too. Then again, that's
no,
why I think maybe they could have been a bit more clear.
no, what I want to say is that I'm not sure how much they explained this. If they did, then you know what, it went over my head. But the thing is that, she kind of, it's like, because when she's about to, give him a blowjob, there's sex is funny, haha.
Haha.
But
69. A.
yeah. I hope this show ends up having 69 episodes. I kid. But then the thing is that, when she's about to do this, she's kind of like, oh, I know why you're here. In the previous episode, it's also kind of established that she's kind of the school hole.
Yeah, she's a
In a
slut.
sense. Yeah,
But
because she sleeps
again,
with
and
everyone.
it does kind of go into that a little bit more as well in detail later, and kind of flashing back
Yeah,
for
but the
Haru,
thing is,
where.
but the
Go
thing
ahead.
I
I'll
have
wait.
is that I don't remember if I actually saying that, because does she only have sex with, not predators? Is Legoshi the first quote
I
unquote
don't
predator?
think so. I think, they show a flashback of her having sex with a few different people, and I swear I saw that what looked like a lion. Maybe I'm wrong, and I have no clue what a lion looks like, but I thought it looked like a lion, and Lugoshi was just the first wolf she's had sex with, but not the first predator. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's,
By the
I
way,
looked at that entirely wrong.
I'm sorry if I'm disgusting, but are you really expecting me that this can in this? No, yuck.
I want to point out, right, like that little story I talked about earlier. I came into this show with only one knowledge thought. The only thing I knew was Zootopia but darker. That's the only thing I'd been told. I had no clue this show was mature. So I'm watching the first episode and I'm like, okay, it's a little bit more violent, so probably, PG-13, maybe rated teen, it's definitely a
And
bit
then
darker.
episode 2 happened.
And then episode 2 comes along and it's like, she's basically, saying, like, hey, I'll repay you by having sex with you. That's, everyone knows that's what I do. So, okay. And it's like, she just starts taking off all her clothes. I'm like, okay. Because I get into episode 2 and I'm like, I see episode 1. I see, Netflix pops up with that little thing in the right hand corner, very small, what it always does for a lot of its shows, rated mature. And I'm like, how is this show rated mature? I can maybe see it for the violence a little bit, but really mature? And then it pops up nudity. And I'm like, how? Nudity? What? And then we see this, and I'm like, oh, okay. I know why now.
I am sorry, Netflix. I shouldn't have doubted you.
I shouldn't have. I did
but
because I had to ask why, how, and then
but
I'm exactly shown
and
why.
then also there's another thing. Man, I had something I want to say about this. Oh yeah, there was in the same episode with the black market. There was this officer. I think it's
No,
a
Panda.
panda.
He's a psychiatrist. Gohin. He's basically a badass panda dude. Awesome. I love
Yeah,
him. Who
yeah,
he's
but
basically he tries to save predators from falling prey to their predatory instincts. He's a psychiatrist and the guardian of the black market, right?
yeah, and so he arrests Legoshi, and
Well, not
he's
really
like,
arrests. He's not exactly
you know what I mean.
allowed to do this. What he's doing is technically illegal also, but it's like he doesn't give a shit. He's trying to save people.
Yeah,
So, which is
but the
cool.
thing is, and Legoshi cannot tell that he actually has that he might have a crush on Haru, and he's like, okay, I have a solution for you, and he gives him this magazine.
Yes. It's basically it's a porno mag but for rabbits.
Yeah, like no joke, this had me laughing so hard. And I don't think the show wanted me to laugh this hard about
Oh,
it.
I
It's
did
like,
too. I laughed as well. It caught me off guard in a funny way, and I don't think it's not supposed to be funny, I don't necessarily think, but it caught me so off guard, I had to laugh at it. It's like, of course that exists in this world. Of course I should
of
know
course
it
it
exists.
exists of course in a world with actual bunnies.
I'm glad you broke up.
Oh, okay.
But I do
I
get what you're saying. Like, it doesn't surprise me that it exists within this world, but at the same time, I never expected I would see it.
You
You
know
know,
something?
an
Actually, no.
actual literal bunny girl magazine.
Actually, funny story about this,
Oh no.
kinda. No, it's nothing. It's nothing like this. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
when I saw that magazine, one, I laughed my ass off,
Yeah.
and two, like my first instinct was the nostalgia critics review of Space Jam. If you've seen it, where
Uh-huh.
where he's talking about Lola Bunny's character, and they actually gave her bunny boobies. Bunny boobies.
I mean, they
That
did
was,
here too.
yeah, I know, but and he has this joke about, have you seen a bunny that you actually had a heart's for, and it's like doesn't count. So I just when I saw this, I just had this entire bit in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I turned Netflix off for a few hours, went for a jog, and when I came back, a friend sent me the official logo for Space Jam 2. And it's like, if that's not a freaking amazing coincidence, I don't know what is.
Fair enough.
So yeah, so that's my funny story.
But and we should mention the as we said, we end up later, very later on in the in this first season, Legoshi the wolf and Haru the rabbit end up in a love hotel and they're going to have sex. Yeah, sex is a very big thing within this season. Not major, it's not
Wait,
overly gratuitous, but
by
it
the way,
is.
I can tell you, my best friend are
You
going to
broke
be
up a little
so
bit.
mad. Oh,
Repeat it.
can you
You
hear me
you
now?
said, yeah, I can hear you fine now. You said I can tell you, and then you broke up.
Okay, so I can tell you that animal experts and my best friend in particular are going to be so mad about this show because this show pretty much attempts to break every rule of sex in the animal kingdom. They probably.
It's
Uh,
anthropomorphic animals, so fair game to them
yeah,
if that's what they want to do.
I,
I'm not going to go too much into questioning it. I don't want to.
yeah,
It's
me
just it's
neither.
there.
But I know. But I tell you, like, bestie, if you're listening to this, I implore you to watch the show, at least the second, and just come back to me with all of your analysis about this. I am ready.
Oh
I
boy.
hear, considering how much she talks to me about how Dragon Ball characters have sex, I am ready for everything. Bring this on. I'm ready.
Oh boy.
Or not.
Oh boy. You have fun. You have fun. I'll pass. Um but yeah, I mean,
But
we even have the idea of, rape in this show too, because the head of the Shishigumi, the lion leader who leads the Shishigumi, was going to rape Haru in order to make her taste better somehow, like, because it would scare her, and so it would hopefully, I guess, and scared prey tastes better than prey that's not scared. I don't know. That's just a thing they do. It's definitely, I think, to quote someone else, you see it in the second episode. You see a little bit of the horniness in the second episode, but it only gets hornier from there. They're
yeah.
not wrong. They're not wrong. It does. It definitely does. But in order to, go back to Zootopia a little bit and compare a little bit, we talked about the idea of potentially a second Zootopia movie covering potentially the idea of a romantic relationship between Judy and Nick. Seeing that
I can tell.
here,
I am not. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but after watching this show, you know what? I don't ship it, but I buy it a bit more.
well, watching the show, do you think it's something that Disney could do, and do you think it would be just as
Well,
interesting?
obviously not in the same way.
No, obviously.
But
For very obvious reasons.
yeah,
Mature rated Zootopia, oh boy. I don't want that, I'll be honest.
Actually, this show also has a slut joke. That
Mm-hmm.
there's this female wolf that crushes on Legoshi. She says that she's late because the slut blocked her way out of class, and that's why she was late, because the slut was so slow. And it's like, oh my god. But okay. being serious though for a
I want to
second.
clarify. You were talking about a slug, not a slut,
Oh,
right?
yeah, of
You know,
course.
those two words sound similar, so clarify.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but
Yeah,
basically,
yeah. Go ahead. You know, again, like
yeah,
asking the
so
question, you know, would you be, you know, having watched Beastars now, would you be interested in seeing them do something like that for a second Zootopia movie? You know, do you think Disney could do it
mm.
and do it well and make it interesting after you've already seen Beastars, or do you think Beastars would
So yeah, I
potentially do it
think
better?
you know. Here's the thing. I think that having watched this show, this is definitely a topic they could get into,
Hmm.
and this is a topic which could be interesting considering people actually shape Judy and Nick in Zootopia.
Hmm.
I think this is also something people would be interested in seeing. I said my thoughts previous outcast that I personally just don't see it. I don't ship
Yeah.
them, but considering this, I can see them trying to actually touch upon this, because you introduce this society where predators and non-predators live in peace. So why not have two of them in a relationship? Because again, Zootopia kind of shows us that if animals get into a relationship, they are of the same exact animal species.
Hmm.
So it could be interesting to actually see that after watching this show.
It's very
But
interesting, right, to have Zootopia exist where we have this more holistic approach where we don't really question how the predators and prey live together in, you know, this
again,
peace, right?
they just said it used to be like this. Now it's not.
Yeah, you know, it used to be this way, but we evolved, and so now we're better, and so now we don't have those issues anymore. We just kind of, you know, we don't, you know, we have no clue if Zootopia has its own version of the black market, right? Thank you. Oh my God.
But we know it has a, so go figure.
Sorry for that noise coming in. For people who might hear that on the recording, my computer loves to alert me for things. Yay, Windows 10 for not going
I
silent
didn't
mode.
hear.
You won't hear
I
it,
didn't.
but they'll hear it on the recording for my audio, more than likely,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, now I'll have to check it out. But the thing, but yeah, it would be interesting if Disney would do it. There would have to be a lot of more restrictions compared
Hmm.
to how Beastars did it. But I'm not as opposed to the idea. Yes, like this could work, and also I think that I think also in Zootopia, the two characters you want to see get together are Judy and Nick, and honestly, they are a bit more proportionate to each other, which makes it less weird. So
Uh-huh.
not necessarily in terms of this, but even when you see, like when you see how kissing the Red Deal, I forgot his name. Lau, is this his
Louis.
name? Louis. So when you see, it does look a bit off,
It,
and so
it's more proportionate, but it still looks off. And then you come to look at, you know, Legoshi, who's even, you know, taller and bigger than, you know, Louis, and it's like it looks really off when you compare him to Haru. And I mean, it should look
exactly.
off, right? It should look, you know, there should be these massive differences between all the different animals, and there definitely is. So it definitely, I guess, has that more of that, you know, you have to get over that. I don't want to necessarily say uncanny valley, but there's a difference there that you have to really make people feel and believe that these two are different in size, and you know, have to really kind of make me get into the idea of these two being in a relationship together, you know, in terms of having to cope with their differences and learn to work with that and everything, right? You know, Disney may not necessarily do that as much, you know, considering they're definitely not going to take that approach to it, right? And they're definitely not going to be darker with it. I think Beastars gives hints at to, you know, some of the things they could do in a more holistic world, right? But, you know, I think it's definitely, I'm glad these two approaches exist, right? I'm glad that we have Zootopia that takes that more holistic approach to looking at a world like this and says, some things just work. Don't really pay attention to that too much. Let's focus on how we can use that world and
Yeah,
explore that
you know,
world in a more
it's
holistic way. And
yeah,
Beastars
because
looks at that and says, well, let's actually look at that world and figure out, how would a world like this work and could a world like this work? And we want you, the audience, to be looking at this kind of world and say, could predator and prey live together in harmony with no issue? Could, a world like Beastars become a world like Zootopia, right? Eventually, at some point, maybe. Without the idea of the black market having to exist or things like that. It's interesting. And I'm glad they both
can
exist.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you? Oh, you broke up, it
Uh,
seems. I can hear
yeah,
you now,
I
yes.
then broke. Just people don't get it when I say I'm recording something. Do not call me.
Oh, well. What did you want to say, though?
Yeah, so I did want to say that considering these are two similar ideas,
Hmm.
and and an idea that people we did kind of talk about it, that even if this was done before Zootopia was like the thing that opened this door. It is kind of nice to see to see two different takes on an idea,
Hmm.
because because like you said, Zootopia has a bit more of a holistic approach to this, so it's nice to see also a version of this which is like, oh, this is actually that, in a sense, probably not the best comparison, but you know how there are concepts or ideas like that always get rebooted in a sense, like something like superhero stories that you have light-hearted versions of the same heroes, but you also have a darker version of the same heroes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's nice to see this with ideas too. So now you people who like the more simplistic version have Zootopia. People who like the more
Uh-oh. And we're having issues with recording because I have now lost HC, ladies and gentlemen. Discord seems to be, dying on me, unfortunately. Yay for issues. Let me see if I can't disconnect and reconnect. If it would let me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what HC would want to say right now, and I don't know when I'll be able to get reconnected, unfortunately, because it seems Discord has just completely died on me. But with that said, I think this has been all for the Burtcast. We do hope you've enjoyed our coverage of Beastars a little bit here and there. There's many things we didn't go over within the show. We didn't talk about Juno, another wolf that Lego Sheaf falls in love with and everything. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can get something worked out here. Let's see if a restart on Discord will fix things. Maybe. Potentially. Hopefully.
Hey, you
Hello!
disappeared.
I'm back. I don't have to end the show by myself. Never mind, ladies and gentlemen. Ignore everything I just said previously. Discord works again. It just died
Okay.
on me. I cannot tell you why. Discord just decided I'm dead, and it died. So
Okay, so probably I think we basically covered everything we have to say about this show. So shall we close anyway?
there's quite a few things. I was telling our listeners there's a few things we didn't mention, like different characters and stuff like that, and we didn't mention some of Louis' perspective of being angry and kind of jealous of predators and their strength that they have, and Haru only being having sex with everyone because she wants to feel, oh equal to people, because she's treated like she's not very equal because she's this small little rabbit and everything. Many things like that we haven't gone over that you can check out within the show, that the show does give to you and kind of goes over a little bit, and is interesting to see, really.
Yep. So, like I said, interesting show. Obviously, not a perfect execution, but they do promise a second season at the end. So you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this.
And the
Whenever
second
that comes
season
out.
seems to be set to go into more of our um mystery murderer at the very beginning, and also absolutely check the show out for the animation, seeing some of the fight scenes, and seeing Legoshi fight the Shishigumi, and seeing Gohin, the panda guy, fight Shishigumi as well. Like, all of that at the very end is just very action packed, and you can kind of very much see the shonen at that point within the show, and that this is a shonen anime. Just a lot of great stuff there that's really enjoyable to watch. Just fun stuff. I highly recommend it.
Okay,
And I
so
mean,
that's
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no. I was about to close, but if
Mm-hmm.
you have anything else to say.
No, I'm just, I'm glad that, as you said, I'm glad that we live in a world where now Zootopia exists as well as Beastars, and we get to kind of see those two sides of that coin to the idea of this world, right? Of a world like this, of anthropomorphic animals, having to live with predator and prey. I'm glad that both of them exist.
Awesome. So with that said, this is all for this episode of the Bellcast. We hope Outcast. Sorry.
Mm.
We hope you enjoyed. What do you think about Beastars? Have you read the manga? Have you only seen the show? Whatever your thoughts are, you can tell us all about us in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Bellcast Team, on our Twitter, which is Bellcast with a capital B, capital C. And with all that said, I was HC.
I've been Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.